Picture yourself walking, and a good example of this is the Matrix movie, where they used the woman in the red dress example. And they talked about people that were plugged in. There was actually more than one lesson in that one lesson in the movie. And, good girl. Alright, keep going. And so, the demonstration of how the Agent Smith was able to jump into anybody that was plugged into the system at will and like take over their image as their consciousness and being. Picture yourself on a stage, on a holodeck, like exampled in Star Trek. Star Trek The New Generation. If you haven't seen that, look up holodeck, Star Trek New Generation. But picture yourself this is a stage, like William Shakespeare said. All the world's indeed a stage, and we are merely players. Everything around you, what you think you see, if you see. For those who are blind, the only sense that they have for observation really is hearing or touch, taste maybe, but nevertheless, sticking to the sight part of it, the visual of the 3D world around you is nothing but reflection of light being processed through your eyeball lens, by your computer brain, into the images that should appear before your consciousness as your reality. So say you're walking in a crowded city street full of people, and those people, as you see them, and I'm going to use this term, stage props. Everything around you is a stage prop. Now, of course, the common reality is what people have agreed on, that is observed by all, that is in the program, created, and people can add to that common reality if they have a reality that they create that is in the consensus of all as being quote-unquote real. This is where the spelling and control of your perception comes in as a mass, and the spells that they cast. I'm going to use 9/11 for example, because that was a big one that changed the whole world's track, basically, of which path they were going to go. You can make individual choices, and this is hard to cram in a little bit of time. So, but like in your daily life, when you're walking around, you see them strangers in the street around you, you're seeing a mirror image, one of those mirror images in the moment of uncertainty, the uncertainty principle. And the image that you're seeing is the image that is presented in the universe that you happen to be walking in, that is your own universe, personal, private, customized to your needs. And until you actually turn your attention towards that image, just like the two mirror images in the vacuum, when you face them to each other, they are automatically attracted to each other from the quantum waves between them. Or another analogy would be electrons bounding together. Say you have and here you get into the energy aspect of positive and negative ions. Say, let's use ions. Say you're an ion, you're a positively charged ion, and you have all these other ions around you that are positively and negatively charged, depending on what state that they are at in that moment. Nevertheless, until you actually engage that person into your realm of energy, in other words, you go up and like two electrons, you bond, you bring that person into your energy field by approaching them and saying hello, or whatever pickup line you want to use. You know what I'm saying? You have to interact, and then that person's consciousness in that situation will then come in and meld with your universal reality in the universe and the multiverses that you have chosen your path at that particular moment. Now, the thing is about this is ongoing in every fraction of a moment you make little bitty choices. And little do you know, those little bitty choices affect everything around you and where you're heading and your path and where you're going. And so if you choose to engage that person, you bring their consciousness and your consciousness together in a kind of union, which then temporarily melds your worlds together on that common ground. So you don't notice the changes, just like you wouldn't notice the change unless you made a drastic change from all of a sudden being a goody good or to divine evil or something. Extreme changes affect, and there you get into the change that we're talking about in the 9/11 example of how they used and performed a ritual. It was a magic ritual for multiple reasons, including a spell to fool the masses into believing one reality. That's enough. That's enough. Waka, you're going to get sick and I'm going to be mad. And get everybody to believe that reality so they could then, when they chose that path, when you make these choices, you're choosing one of those infinite possibilities that exist in the uncertainty principle at that moment in time. And that actually changes your universal situation, where you're at in your path. Literally changes moment by moment. And so what they did was change everybody's path in that moment that believed a lie into following this specific timeline and this specific reality that they wanted to create. And most of you that are watching this have seen the Bush. Good girl, she's a good baby. I've seen the Bush classroom spell ritual. Okay, go over there then. That's fine. Since you're just taking advantage of me being distracted in the video, but really check it out. Come on. That was what's called a confirmation spell. And they used the kids and their energy and their creativeness and their innocence to do the ritual, to solidify those words. Again, I mentioned how words have power. The word, putting something into word from thought to word, is one of the first steps of manifesting something from a thought into a reality. And because it's a spell, they're spelling, so they spelled out the words of the event that they wanted to be impressioned upon the universal consciousness and common reality that everyone shares. And that was why all the cantation with the canting, the way they did the tap, 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 the way they did the words, kite, hit steel, this, that, and that, to try to solidify the illusion of the planes hitting the Twin Towers. And that's what it's called. It's a confirmation spell. And so that is one example of how they use perception to actually create a reality and shift a timeline and direct a course of the mass of this planet. And the ones that are actually orchestrating this, like I said, they're not of this. They're not mortal men. The mortal men are just the tools that are being used. Most of them, and people with the bigger ego are easier to use, actually, because they use the ego against them, and that's another power thing. We can get more deep into this, but this takes a lot of talking, a lot of explaining. I haven't even touched on half the aspects of the holographic reality you live in, how it's ever changing, and how it's an ongoing program that you have partial creative control under, being created in their image, the ones who created this. So I don't know how much time I have on this, but I'm going to
the earlier walk there. Now I want to express a little bit on the point of the energy transference that actually takes place with people and interaction. Your each one of these phases is hard to describe this stuff. It's hard to know which order to put this stuff to make it comprehensible and then come up with some type of scientific verifications and also visualizations to help give you the grasp the concepts. Because the way I learned it was I actually seen it myself in real life reality. And the things, and we'll get into some of my personal experiences once we've laid this whole groundwork of what your real world really is and the way it really works. And part of that I do want to touch on, especially after what I talked about outside, in comparison, in conjunction with part 5 that I had just put out earlier. The interaction between people. Your inner is an energetic interaction. Now, when kids are young, they learn to get attention from their parents in different ways. Now, either it depends on the type of parents they have, of course, but if they don't get positive attention from their parents or enough of it, then they will turn to doing negative things to get that attention. And why do they really want that attention? Because it's energy. Anything you give your attention to, you are applying energy into that. This has all manner of implications and application throughout your life and in your everyday. When artists do a piece of work and they are concentrating for a certain amount, it depends on the type of work, but some work can take days, hours, days to months, and they're putting an actual energy, part of their self, into that. That's when you put your soul into it. The saying goes, you're putting your energy essence into it, and the energy from that art piece or whatever that is put into it when creating it can then be felt by the people who come and observe it, which by observing it, they're bringing that into their realm, into their reality bubble, and they will feel they will get certain feelings and vibes and frequencies, energies off of this piece of art, whether it's a sculpture, a painting, whatever, music, expression in all forms. Now, so people crave energy, we crave energy, and we find ways of getting it from others. And some people like to give a lot of energy. There's the same energy transference. There's a difference, of course, in the negative state energy and the positive state energy. I think I was referring to ions outside in our walk, and the positive ions and negative ions, and whatever state of being you're in and whatever you give away towards others is how they're going to receive it and affect it. This is also directed by you once you realize what you're doing and have a consciousness awareness of this energy. Then your subconscious will no longer direct this energy. You can start to learn to direct the energy consciously and choose which energy you give, how you give it, in what degrees, etc., etc. For what reasons? Because your intentions and your emotions have a lot to play in directing and controlling this energy, and using it. You can actually take negative energy and turn it into positive energy. You can do many things, but the whole point is, and especially on the quantum level that we're talking about, in the actual fabric of reality and existence on this plane of existence, that's how the world is flat. It's not because it's a flat model that you can put a ring around and like you see visionaries given of the flat earth or whatever is totally, whatever. That's a perception thing. It's all in how you perceive it is when it comes to that. But when in reality it's a plane, because it's like a computer, and you can take any construct of a computer simulation and basically take it in its grid pattern, and it's a plane. Like you look at the grid pattern of the three-dimensional CGI drawings of Google Earth cityscapes or whatever. But it's more complex than that. We've done on the micro we've only copied the macro, in a sense, in everything that we've done, and nothing new. And there's nothing new under the sun. The point back to the interaction between people and this energy interaction that takes place, and what this really is all about, and what people really search for and crave in their interactions with other people.